The Kansas City Chiefs are back in prime time, and it's almost bowl season for college football. I have everything you need to know right here on the Best of Everything.
You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
This is the Best of Everything presented by Charlie Hustle. I am your host, Michaela Bennett, and I am wearing Charlie Hustle gear from Kansas City Sports Network. We have our own merchandise now with Charlie Hustle. So soft, so amazing, so cozy. Great Christmas presents. Check them out. But the Chiefs are back in action in prime time this weekend. And before we get to that, we have a lot to talk about from last week and college football. Last week, the win against the Jaguars, it may not have been the prettiest with the turnovers, but the offense was clicking pretty well whenever they were keeping the ball. And on the breakdown this week, they sat down to talk about just that. They have the offense and defensive breakdown, so you can check out both of them. But on the offense this week, they talked about Travis Kelce. And Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown, is one of the best bets you can make in college or in NFL, because the ball almost always goes to Travis Kelce for a touchdown in a Chiefs game. But it had been a few weeks since Kelce had seen the end zone. And that's because most teams are kind of trying to shut him down now. Thankfully, the Chiefs have enough offensive weapons that they can go to other guys like Juju and Valdez-Scantling and now Kadarius Toney. But Travis Kelce did get back in the end zone this week. And on the breakdown, they talked about just that.
Next time in the red zone, we saw some more zone coverage. And again, teams keen on Kelce. There's a lot of questions. Oh, Kelce hasn't scored since he had those 4 touchdowns against the Raiders. What's going on? Well, Teams are trying to eliminate him from the equation as much as possible and force these other guys to beat them, which has created opportunities. What'd you see here?
This is great. I mean, it's a true cover 4 beater. And by that, I mean, it's quarter across the board. And they try to go with a 3-man rush here. So get an extra defender. You can see the defensive lineman down here at the bottom. He's going to come out of the pass rush and be an extra pass defender. But as you see it, Kelce's in a cut split. He's going to take 2 with that post route that he's running. Noah Gray comes off his wake. He goes with the out route, but he runs the wheel. And because Kelce, everybody has to take him into account, especially in this area. He takes 2. The corner really should have his eyes outside and be able to fall off on this wheel. But because that's Travis Kelce, Noah does a good job of being patient, not giving it away, gets that defender to turn his head, goes down the sideline on the wheel. And the protection here, once again, for Patrick Mahomes is outstanding. You talked about it in the previous play, but wait until you see the pocket here. I mean, it's 3-man rush. He's able to sit in that pocket comfortably and deliver the ball in the back of the end zone. It was great play design, built to beat cover 4, and it is exactly how they drew it up, I'm sure, when they were in meetings, and then the offensive line and everybody else did the rest.
And you got to love the pump fake from Mahomes, too, to freeze those defenders, because Josh Allen is – he runs out there with Gray, but as soon as he sees that pump fake from Patrick, he's, obviously he's more of a pass rusher. He's not really comfortable being in space. So Mahomes gives him something to bite on. He bites, and that's why you see Gray get that wide open. And it was beautiful job by Mahomes again. And it's funny because you saw this. Okay, they're paying so much attention to Travis Kelce in the red zone. Of course, the next time they come down, they finally don't double Kelce, and guess who scores the touchdown to end that drought? So
I'm guessing Travis Kelce did. Yeah, that's the thing, is you always have to take into account Travis Kelce, but at the same time, they have so many different weapons and so many different aspects of this offensive unit at the wide receiver and tight end position that any of these guys can show up on any given Sunday and be the featured guy because of that reason. If they want to double Travis Kelce, guess what? It's going to give different opportunities for everybody else on the team. And we saw that throughout the course of this game. I mean, 10 different receivers were targeted in this game by Patrick Mahomes, which is an insane number of different wide receivers to target and tight ends.
And as we saw with the previous game, you also have to account for his legs. So because if you take everything away, he'll just take off on you. And we've seen how dangerous he can be there. So this offense is just so multifaceted, and they can beat you in so many different ways. It has to give defensive coordinators nightmares.
Oh, 100%. If you're sitting down, breaking down the film, you're saying he can beat you with the arms, the route concept, the speed to get to the perimeter on all the different stuff that they do with the jet sweep, the shovel passes, those things, the slip screen, the quick game. Then you take into account Pacheco last week, the way that he was able to run the ball. If all of a sudden they create balance there, the play action pass, and then Mahomes, you saw it through early in this game too, of him taking off, getting first downs, hurting them with his legs. He's so dangerous. This offense is so dangerous. They have so many weapons, and this offensive line is playing well. I mean, that's the reason why they're the number one ranked offense in the league right now.
The Chiefs are the number one offense in the NFL right now, and they deserve it. Their offense, a lot of people had questions going into this year. Losing Tyreek Hill, what is the offense going to look like? What is the wide receiver room going to look like? What is going to happen? And Patrick Mahomes has stepped up. And the rest of the team has stepped up, and it is a full cohesive look right now. But not only are they the number one offensive team in the NFL, they have the number one seed in the AFC. With the Buffalo's lost last week, the Chiefs now hold the number one seed and home field advantage if they keep it the rest of the way. And on 5 Burning Questions this week, BJ Kissel sat down with Nate Taylor to talk about just that. And if the Chiefs can remain the number one seed heading into postseason play, we all know what that means. And the home field advantage is huge. But there might be some teams or some hurdles to go over before we get there. So Nate and BJ talk about if they really think that the Chiefs can maintain and hold on to this number one seed the rest of the regular season.
Chiefs, obviously, after the Bills lost and their victory, have the number one seed in the AFC. Looking at the schedule that the Chiefs have coming up, first burning question I've got for you: do the Chiefs relinquish at any point throughout the rest of the regular season their number one seed status in the AFC?
That's a fascinating question, BJ, because I predicted last week in the Athletic that once again the Chiefs will host the AFC Championship game. Obviously, the easiest path to do that is to maintain the number one seed. This question actually kind of pulls you into Sunday's game against the Los Angeles Chargers, right? If the Chiefs lose, they could at least give some ground. Perhaps the Miami Dolphins, who have 3 losses, could have more wins just based on the way the schedule's worked out so far. But I want to say no, BJ, because I think the Chiefs will win Sunday in Los Angeles, which will give them another just march down to the rest of the season. I think they'll beat the Rams. I think they'll beat the Seahawks. I think they'll be just fine with the Broncos and the Houston Texans. The most interesting game past Sunday is against the Cincinnati Bengals, because that team's been kind of going through their own roller coaster as the, defending AFC champions. So I want to say yes, just because Patrick Mahomes is playing at an MVP level. Kadarius Toney has fit the offense seamlessly in a surprisingly quick manner. And the defense is coming along just fine. This is one of the rare times, BJ, where I predicted a 27-17 game, and the defense held them to 17 points. It was kind of, miraculous based on those who are asked to pontificate and prognosticate. So I think the answer is yes, because outside of the Miami Dolphins just staying on an absolute tear offensively, I think the Chiefs are the team you should rely most to maintain the one seed.
Well, there have been some expectations from other teams that haven't really lived up to their hype. The Cincinnati Bengals and some other teams in the AFC, that it was kind of a weird season for them. But another team in Kansas City Sports Network that has lived up to everything and more is the Kansas Jayhawks, the football Kansas Jayhawks, that is. And on Booth Review this week, Kent Swatson sat down with former Jayhawk Carter Stanley to talk about a lot of things, but most importantly, the Jayhawks now. And Carter says, of course, if and when the Jayhawks go to a bowl game, Carter will be there. Absolutely. It's been a long time coming for the Jayhawks. And Carter talks about how it's kind of evolved from whenever he was there and what it means to him as an alum to see the team doing so well this year.
Dude, it's great to have you back. A lot's changed since the last time that we talked, right? Like, I mean, this team has exceeded a lot of people's expectations. You're a recent alum. You've been a part of that program very recently. What's it been like to see this team get to bowl eligibility and already have 6 wins under the belt through 10 games?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Obviously, I think last time I was on, it was maybe right before the season started. But, if you told me we'd be 6-4 at this point, I don't know, man. I don't know if I believe you, but it's been incredible. And, being able to watch them any given Saturday and know they obviously have a legitimate chance to win. And, at this point, more likely to win than lose. So it's been awesome.
All right, so I have a college background. I played football and baseball in college, so it's not necessarily the same because it's a lot higher stakes, at KU. But I was part of a baseball team in college. Weren't particularly great, but our coach always kind of thanked us for being part of that foundation of building a program. They went on to bigger things. You're kind of in that boat when it comes to Kansas football, where you guys didn't necessarily have the same kind of success that maybe they are to this point, but you were one of those foundational pieces that kind of helped continue to build, kind of build upon. I think your last year was one of the brighter spots of the last decade for this football team. So what kind of pride do you feel about being part of the foundation towards, and I know the coaching staffs were different and everything, but you were there with some of these guys. You were a leader for a recent version of this football team. How does it feel to kind of be part of the foundation that wound up leading to these moments here?
Yeah, it definitely is cool. I'd say the coolest thing for me is seeing the guys that were like true freshmen when I was there in 2019 and seeing how far they've come. Like, just to throw out some names: Kenny Logan, Mason Fairchild, Earl Bostick, Sam Burt, a number of those guys. And just been so cool to see them, how far they've come in these last couple of years. And, a lot of those guys are now either team captains or, leading in some sort of statistical category. So, yeah, it's been awesome just to see those guys stick it out, and, their success is showing right now.
Yeah, and it's just I know there's probably a lot of pride getting to see some of those guys that you previously played with, but also just getting to see the growth of this program over the last couple of years, and just getting to see this team. Are you going to the bowl game? Like, is that something in the cards for you?
Yeah, no doubt. Just waiting to see where it is, but I'll definitely be going to the bowl game.
You're in Florida though, right?
Yeah. So I'm hoping we can somehow make it to the Cheez-It Bowl. Because, man, I tell you what, I'd probably tailgate that for a week. But it's like just over an hour away from where I'm at right now. And, regardless of where they go, I'm going for sure.
Speaking of bowl games, K-State, where are they going to go on 3 Mile this week? The guys talked about, it's looking like it's going to be the Sugar Bowl. And if K-State and both TCU win out, what is going to happen for K-State Wildcats? What bowl game are they going to go to? What is going to happen with conference, etc.? And what happens if multiple teams went out? What a 10-win team right now, or a 9-win team by the Wildcats? Is this a good season? What are fans really thinking right now? But on 3 Mile this week, they talked about the possibility of the Wildcats going to the Sugar Bowl, and would they be happy seeing that?
Did we talk about last time the implications of like K-State and TCU both winning out? That the Sugar Bowl scenario becomes basically a guarantee for K-State at that point if both TCU and K-State win out at this point in time?
I don't know that we discussed it, but yeah, if Kansas State, all they have to do is win out. Yeah, it doesn't, or I guess because you need TCU to win out too. I get that because they have to be in the playoff. But yeah, if they both win out, then Kansas State's sitting there and going to play in the Sugar Bowl no matter what. And interestingly enough, the SEC example on the other side is basically the same thing for LSU. Like, they're likely going to be in the Sugar Bowl no matter what.
Yeah, in 11 days from now, we're recording this on Wednesday. K-State will, if they go 2-0 and TCU goes 2-0, K-State will know that they're going to the Sugar Bowl, essentially. I mean, that's going to be locked in no matter what happens in the Big 12 championship at that point, assuming TCU also goes 2-0, because it's hard to fathom TCU, not losing a game and falling out of the playoff at this point. And so that is what would occur. And I tell you, the Big 12 championship is still a huge deal, but it's nice to have that fallback of potentially going to the Sugar Bowl, even if you drop that Big 12 title game, right? Because the relevancy factor is still there. You're not getting dumped down to Alamo Bowl again, like we've seen with K-State in the past, which is still too soon to bring up. So I shouldn't have done that, but that's a nice benefit. So if you're a K-State fan, cheer on TCU. The next two games they've got, I think they're at Baylor this weekend, right? So if they get by that one, then I think they've got, Iowa State.
They finished with Iowa State, yeah.
And Fort Worth. So they should be okay to, get to undefeated mark if they can get past this weekend. And then, K-State go 2-0, baby. There's 2 big weeks right here.
And obviously, that Sugar Bowl would obviously have a tough opponent. It would, hypothetically speaking, if they get there, it's likely LSU at this point. It's what it looks to be, unless, a lot of unrest and chaos were to happen. And obviously they played LSU in the bowl game last year, so it'd be 2 years in a row against LSU in a bowl game if that were to come to fruition. It is interesting. It's because under this premise, they're saying maybe you lose in the Big 12 championship game, you still have a shot at a 10th win. Because if we win out, you get 9 wins. So getting that 10th win, I think, would be substantial for the program.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I have to tell you about some of these strange tall boys of beer that you might see in the bottled water section of your favorite store. Well, it's not actually beer. It's a liquid mountain spring water company from the Alps, and it's called Liquid Death. And you might be wondering, Tucker, why is it called Liquid Death? Well, let me tell you, it's because they'll brutally murder your thirst. That's right. Not only are they going to brutally murder your thirst, they are going to brutally murder plastic pollution in the process. It's wonderful with their infinitely recyclable aluminum cans. They also donate 10% of their proceeds from every can sold to help kill plastic pollution. It's great. They've got 4 flavors. They have regular sparkling water. They've got still water, which is the mountain spring water. And they have mango. They have berry flavored, and they also have the one I like here, the severed lime. I'm going to go ahead and crack it on open, and you can get a Liquid Death at your local Target, Walmart, 7-Eleven, or find a Liquid Death retailer near you with their store locator tool at liquiddeath.com/KCSN. That's liquiddeath.com/KCSN.
Now, a little bit of a different story at the University of Missouri, and on Mizzou, that's who. Maggie asked a great question. Is this going to be one of the last few games that we see Brady Cook in a Tigers uniform? It's a great question. And they talk about if Mizzou can beat Arkansas on the Friday after Thanksgiving, what is that game going to look like? But there's a lot of questions of, is Brady Cook going to continue with the Tigers? And is he going to play in a bowl game? If he transfers, what does that mean? And what does it look like for the Tigers going forward?
Do we think that we can beat Arkansas in that game?
I mean, they can. Arkansas is not great, but I did just see KJ Jefferson is expected to play this weekend against Ole Miss. He did not play last weekend.
Right.
And they played pretty well. I mean, their defense played well.
Right, defense played well. It's not like an unwinnable game. Arkansas is going to come in here 5-6. I think I said today, one of those teams is going to one of those good bowls, and one of those teams is hoping for the APR exception.
Is it the last game we ever see Brady Cook play quarterback for Mizzou?
Ooh. Yeah.
Well, I mean, bowl game. He'll start a bowl game, right?
Well, what if he transfers?
He won't. I doubt he transfers before. Because Bazelak waited, right?
Bazelak waited, but the transfer thing was different last year. I mean, the transfer portal does open on December 5th. And if you want a spot, a lot of guys might be saying, I will be interested to see, though, if Missouri gets to a bowl game, and I'm not even talking about Brady, I'll be interested to see, because I think the big story this week with this football team and this is kind of what I was talking about this morning, is how many of these defensive guys are back next year. Because I think everybody's just saying, well, we fixed the defense, so now with next year, just got to fix the offense. But this defense has a chance to look way different next year. So I'm interested to see in a bowl game, like, is Darius Robinson playing? Is J.C. Carlisle playing?
Right.
Are some of these guys playing? You know, because that'll be pretty indicative, I think, of – because if you're coming back next year, you're going to play the bowl game. You know, so I think that might be kind of our first idea of, okay, well, here's what this team's going to look like next year, defensively.
It's gonna be interesting to see too if Drinkwitz talks like like a Tyron Hopper out of plan for his future, or Isaiah McGuire maybe. If you're gonna go to the draft, hey, don't play in this bowl game. That could be very interesting to see. At this point, I don't think Eli Drinkwitz should be doing that. He needs to win a couple bowl games. He needs to have
He
some
should
postseason
certainly.
success.
It should not be his idea this time around. I mean,
Yes.
if Isaiah McGuire comes to you and says, "Yo, coach, I'm not going to play this game," hey, that's
for
fine.
sure. He should not go to
but
them.
yeah, you do not go to your best players and say, "Yeah, all right, we're good."
Well, looking ahead, going forward this week, the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Los Angeles Chargers in Los Angeles, and it has been moved to primetime Sunday night game. And the Chiefs just released what their uniforms are going to be this weekend. All white. And that it looks so clean, so crisp, so nice. I'm a huge fan of that. But on Outside the Trenches this week, BJ and Tucker talked about what the offense needs to do against the AFC West opponent, the Chargers. And BJ really says, Eric Bieniemy kind of says, to get better at running the ball, you got to run the ball. And that's what the Chiefs are expected to do this week. But, the Chargers are kind of beat up. They have a lot of injuries, and the Chiefs should really take advantage of that. This is a big game to try some new things, but BJ and Tucker talk about what the offensive needs to do to beat Justin Herbert and the Chargers.
If there's an opportunity, and I'm kind of combining things. I'm combining the obvious, all of the injuries for the Chargers, and what Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy said a couple of weeks ago with, you can't get better at the running game unless you run the damn football. He didn't say damn, and I'm paraphrasing it, but that's basically what he said. You can't get better at it unless you go do it. If there's an opportunity for the Chiefs to go run the football and to try to get right with the Chiefs running game and those guys up front in the offensive line, this could be a game where the message all week is, hey, big boys, like up front, like we're going to get after it with you guys on this turf field, which we'll get to in a minute. But we're going to run the ball down their throat, because we're talking about second, third string guys in some cases outside of Khalil Mack. They're going to be out there. They're signing guys off practice squads from the Browns who are probably going to play in this game. Maybe that means they're just going to get Patrick Mahomes more time to throw the ball. The first matchup wasn't like they were lighting it up statistically. Travis Kelce was the leading receiver with 5 catches for 51 yards. And that was when they were fully healthy, obviously. But this could be a game where the Chiefs running backs in that running room really gets it going, which is why it's interesting that they were talking and the media was asking about the running back situation. I could see that happening this week, Tuck.
Absolutely. And I kind of talked about this a little bit with Ryan Tracy on KCSN Update for Thursday. What's the Chargers defense going to do? I mean, they have Derwin James. Do they bring him up to try to stop the run? Once they bring him up to try to stop the run, it's over at that point. And then you also have to factor Kadarius Toney into this whole thing of like, okay, how does he get into Kadarius Toney? Who's going to cover Travis Kelce? There's a lot that I don't think that the Chargers defense can cover, right? Offensive scheming, offensive game planning is about putting defenses in conflict. There's going to be a lot of conflict, I think, for this Chargers defense when you talk about the backups playing on their defensive line. I do think the Chiefs really do need to assert their dominance and run the ball and just kind of run right is what I know that the Titans say that a lot. Run right, run left was with Taylor Lewan, but it's going to be interesting to see too. Andrew Wiley dealing with that elbow issue. Is he going to come back? Who's going to play? Prince played very well in his absence. Prince Takawanogo. So be interested to see kind of how he develops. Looking at the injury report from there, Andrew Wiley was a full participant. So on Wednesday, which is a good sign on a Wednesday practice being a full participant. Andy Reid said he had a brace on. So I think that's going to be a big factor in kind of how they play. They should, we say this with asterisk around it, right? Make it an italic. I'm saying this in italics. They should run the football. We all know once we expect the Chiefs to run the football, they probably won't. It could be one of those games where they get up like 24-0, right? 24-0 early, and then they try to run the football. Andy Reid takes foot off the gas, run the football a little bit that way. I think that would be how I would like to see this game.
Well, Tucker and BJ definitely think that the Chiefs need to run the dang ball this week. But on KC Lab, Kent, Craig, and Matt talk about the defense and rushing the quarterback. And this could be a game of Chris Jones. We love to rush the quarterback, and Justin Herbert is very quick at getting the ball out. But with the offensive line injuries by the Chargers, this could be one of those games where Herbert is on his back a lot because of the sacks, the hurries, whatever it may be. But on KC Lab this week, they talk about the advantages that the defense has and what they can do with the injuries that the Chargers have on offense.
I think that the Chiefs should have plenty of success rushing the passer. Now, Justin Herbert's going to get the ball out quick. Again, short passing game, ball's coming out quick. I still think there's going to be plenty of pressure from the 4-man rush. Steve Spagnuolo is going to blitz, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that we're going to see as much this week just because that offensive line is really, really weak, and I think the 4-man rush can actually get home, especially with Frank Clark back in action.
Well, and here's an interesting tidbit. Sawyer playing left tackle apparently in 252, almost just under 300 passing reps, hasn't given up a sack yet. Now, this PFF stats, surprising. Take it for what you will. Justin Herbert's really good at avoiding sacks because the ball's out quick. He's athletic. I agree. When I watch them, it looks like they're protecting Justin Herbert from death from his tackles. I think they've even actually come out and said, we don't really have time to do a lot of stuff right now because of their offensive tackle situation. So I do think that is part of it. It will be interesting. It'll be a good challenge for the Chiefs defensive ends because we talk about this numerous times every year. When they come up to a matchup that they should win, sometimes they don't do it. There's a lot of times we say this about a matchup and the Chiefs the defensive line kind of comes out and sputters. And look no further than the AFC Championship game last year when everybody was beating the Bengals like a drum and the Chiefs got pressure like 3 times, it felt like, without blitzing, right? So this is a matchup they should be able to dominate like that. I think it's key to get that pressure with 4 or at least disrupt Herbert, who does like to operate on time, who does like to operate in this very specific set programmed checklist. Because if you have to blitz, guess who's really good at seeing where you're blitzing from and putting the ball behind it? Justin Herbert. So not having to bring Snead, not having to bring your backers, and instead getting pressure or disruption with 4 is important. I think they should be able to get it, but we've done this song and dance before. And final note, Zion Johnson may have done a great job against Chris Jones in the first half. I've watched him since, and he's been beaten like a drum more than one occasion. I hope that somebody, put Chris Jones back over, just let it go again. Maybe it's just the perfect anti-Jones matchup because he's so short and squatty and grabby, and Jones likes to play so high with his swim moves. Maybe it is just a bad matchup for him, but try it again. I've seen Zion Johnson collect a lot of holding penalties this year, so I want to see Chris get another crack at him.
Yeah, and I think this is, I don't know if this is going to be the player to watch for you guys, but I do think this is a Chris Jones game for sure.
Well, KC Laboratory definitely has a lot of opinions on what this game is going to look like, and the Chiefs have been a little bit inconsistent as to what team comes out every single week. Now, if it is the Chiefs team that we all love, it is going to be an explosive offense, early lead, take the game, and then start running the ball, take time off the clock. But we'll see which team shows up. It is Sunday night in Los Angeles, and we will have a post-game show right here on Kansas City Sports Network. But I will have everything that you need to know again next week right here on the Best Wrestling presented by Charlie Hustle.